Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 93rd episode of Talking Times. Today, I'm going to start this a little bit differently. If you were watching this episode from a class, I want you to grab your phone and enter in this live on your phone so we will have every individual view of you who are watching us. Have you ever thought about changing careers, going to another field? So today I'm here with Thais Rodrigues. We're going to have an amazing conversation. I'm excited to know where this is going. And right after our podcast intro. Hello, Thais. Welcome.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. Okay, let's see if we can focus on the topic before we go to the crazy stuff. Okay, let's do our best
All
here.
right. Let's do it.
I won't promise anything. Okay, but before we
Me
start,
neither.
Thais, please, yeah, good. Uh, Introduce yourselves to us.
Hi, guys. My name is Thais Rodrigues. I am a teacher right now at times, an English teacher, but I worked for a little bit more than 10 years teaching chemistry. So my whole work life, my whole work experience was with teaching on the education sector. Uh, it's a good thing I discovered that like on the first try, so I didn't have to undergo too many transitions and uh life crisis. But that's approximately it. I am 30 years old now. I live in Rio de Janeiro, unfortunately. Yes.
You said it, not me. Oh,
I know.
everybody from Rio watching us. I'm sorry, I'm joking. Every
No, thank you.
Brazilian watching us. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, I accept. Uh, thank you for the sentiment. Uh, and that's it.
And something that I like to ask the teachers that like talk here to is how did you first become a teacher? You know, because normally what happens, people are doing something and then they discover that, oh, I actually can do it, or somebody suggests and then they start teaching, and then it's like this one-way road. And what was your story when you were a kid? You like teaching people, you have someone in your family, what happened to you?
What happened was that when I was in my teens, I wanted to enter IME. I don't know if you know the Institute uh, Institute of Military Engineering to do chemistry engineering. But so I did my high school in a military school, actually a military course. But at the first time, I fail only because of physics. That's why I have a problem with physics until this day. I hate it.
Me too.
Chemistry, math, Portuguese, all fine, but physics, no. Don't talk to me about it. So I went back to study again to do DNN and go to a federal college. So during this, uh, my chemistry teacher, he noticed that I had really gift with the subject, and like it was really easy for me to understand. And when was time to do tests and like mock-ups of the SATs, he saw that I used to help my friends to study. and the way that I used to help my friends study, that I used to make it very simple, much more simple than the way that he used to teach. And he said that the way that he noticed, the way that he teach, it's like he was teaching for people that already knew, and it was like a kind of a review. But the
Mm,
way that I was teaching them was like I was teaching for kids,
mm,
uh, for the basics, like everything with very much detail, so they could get the basics. And because exact subjects, they depend on that, on the basics, and then you starts to construct your logic, and then it's easy. You just
I
need the
guess
basics.
you just blew my mind now, because maybe this is the very reason I've always had such a difficult time when people started teaching me math, chemistry, and physics. I remember until the third grade, I was good with mathematics. Like I used to get the grade system was like from 1 to 10. I used to get like 8, 9, and then it changed to D, C, B, and A plus. But on my fourth grade, they started mixing number and letters, and then it went south. I kind of lost, and it didn't make any sense to me. And you mentioned physics, Thais. I had this kind of problem when I tried to learn at the high school, because I don't know if it was the teacher and of lack of interest too, but the explanation always felt very complex. Like, oh, this is the formula, blah blah blah, apply it. And like, maybe if I had someone like you at that time, like to kind of hold my hand and say, oh, you start with this, E equals blah 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 blah, is na 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 na, understand? No, like, let's do it again. Because I
Yeah.
remember one replacement that we had, and there was another teacher, and he made me understand the formula, and I could solve the problem that those classic, a train leaves the station and goes to point A from point B at this speed, you have to calculate blah blah blah. I felt so great. It was so nice. I forgot everything a little time after that, yes, but at the moment I said, okay, I can understand. And then astrophysics is a little bit more interesting for me,
I
because
agree.
it's very interesting, the theories, and I relate to some stuff that I study in philosophy is like that. So, let's go back a few steps, Thais. Before you started studying chemistry, what was the incentive that you had? I don't know, you wanted to do exactly what? I want to be a scientist, a research, or I don't know, invent something.
I wanted to be a chemistry engineer and work on the gas and oil and petrol area.
Mm-hmm.
But this teacher, uh, he gave me an advice like, when you finish here, uh, I'm sure you're gonna enter any college that you want. So apply to be a tutor here, a chemistry tutor. So I took his advice. I thought like, uh, no, no harm, no fault. So I applied. I passed, and then I started tutoring chemistry, and my classes were always full when the kids had their doubts. They always booked with me to take their questions. To They also sometimes asked me to do reviews of some classes. And then the same teacher, he opened up a branch of another school 5 years later. And then he called me personally and he asked me to be a teacher for him, a chemistry teacher officially.
Nice.
So I accepted and I went with him. And I was a teacher for 5 more years. But unfortunately, not just his branch, but the whole branch of the school uh, had to declare bankruptcy. So they all closed the doors, and that's when I decided to get out of my comfort zone. I was
Okay.
too comfortable teaching chemistry.
And
So
when you started teaching English, what can you tell us is the similar aspects? Because you can think, oh, teaching is teaching. You have a student, you see what are the stuff that he has doubts or what he doesn't know, and what you know, what the knowledge that you can pass on, and you do it. Or no, it was very different because one thing is like exact, the other is a language, the approach is not the same. How did you feel when you started teaching English?
when I started teaching, I felt there was a very different approach because I didn't have a foundation to construct the basic of the thought. So it was challenging at the beginning, but I started studying the methodologies behind the study of languages, and then it became easier. I understood how the brain works when you are learning languages. It's different from when it works when you are learning exact sciences. So that's when it got easier for me. Another big challenge that I had was I still have sometimes was about the time management, because when you are teaching English, you need to finish one chapter in one class. When you are teaching chemistry, you have 2 months to teach the chapters that are gonna be on the test. So you have a little wiggle room to be more cautious, to take more care of the students, to take their hands and go, let me help you, let me give you an extra attention. But with English courses, this is more difficult to do, uh, especially with times that it's a very complete course. From the ones that I worked before, I never saw one that explains everything. Uh, Grammar, the pronunciation, why the pronunciation is like that, and has
Mm-hmm.
conversation. So it's very complete. And to do all of that in 1 hour for me was also a challenge too. So it was as a new career exchange, but even though it wasn't, it was as if.
But we adapt, right? That's the
Yeah,
beauty of it. For example, you when you were teaching chemistry, you were teaching presentially or online, Thais?
presentially.
So okay, and when you started teaching English, was it remotely or was it presential?
Presential.
Okay, so that's one adaptation too. That this is one I can share a little bit because I had to go through. How was it for you from presential classes to online classes? Was it difficult to adapt, or for example, it's more comfortable to you because you can work from home, for example?
It's more comfortable I have more hours on my day to prepare classes, to study, to work, to enjoy my hobbies too, because it cuts the transportation hours that in Rio they were crazy. Like a trip to and from work, uh, that would be like 10-15 minutes with the traffic jams. They were like 1.5 hours, maybe two. So it was a lot of wasted time, and now it isn't. I can use that extra time. It is very precious time that I can use to prepare my lessons, to study and really apply myself, because I am very hard on myself. I have been since as a kid. So I am always trying to improve something. So if when I am not studying or preparing a class, I am reading or doing some other thing like preparing special classes.
I
So I'm
know you send them to me.
yeah, you're my victim. I'm sorry.
No, but this is good. This is good stuff because it is something nice that we can do here is that we can kind of channel this creative energy. I was a few hours ago. I told you I was in a workshop about how to create special classes, and this was part of the training that we were having. You know how to get this creativity, what to do in a class, and we created classes too. You helped me with the one I showed you that I was doing about the memes. Let me take a look at the chat here before I forget. Okay, one from Claudio, teaching chemistry or English. Okay, I guess I know the answer, but I'll ask you. If you had to choose, okay, and without being biased, which one would you rather teach, chemistry or English?
I guess teaching chemistry in English.
Oh, that was a very creative and intelligent answer.
Because I never had that opportunity. And I guess it would be amazing because they are both subjects that I really love. And I never had the opportunity to teach other subjects in a foreign language, like in English. So teaching chemistry in English. So again, so I could get out of my comfort zone one more time.
Okay, you watching us. What would you like to for Thais to teach us about chemistry that she could do in English, and then we can put this in a special class. That's it.
Yeah.
This is how we roll here. What? What? Okay, yeah, that's a great suggestion. How we can cook math, but math in Brazil is not a thing. I guess the K9 one. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Joking. Don't do drugs. Okay. I know it's almost carnival, but do the ones that the government allows you to do. One from Marcos here. Shout out to you, Marcos. You think? Okay. What do you think? Chemistry is harder to teach than English. Which one is harder to teach, chemistry or English?
For me, is English
Okay.
because exact sciences, they have formulas because uh, they have a foundation. So they have a logic. That's why formulas exist in exact sciences. When you have, when you construct your logic, you can apply that logic for all of your problems. You just need to think and interpret your problem in the right way. So if you know that, you don't even need the formula. You just need to construct your line of thought, and through that, apply your logic. So all of the formulas that you see in physics, that you see in chemistry, that you see in math, they all have a theory behind, and they are not like given from the heavens, already made. They come from someone that was studying. They were like they were through their studies, they were seeing results, seeing applying different methods, seeing different results, and through that they start to see patterns, and with the patterns they can see the logic behind what's happening, and through that they can give you a formula. But if you can see the pattern, you don't need the formula. And for me, it's easier to see the pattern than to sometimes just see what's in front. For me, sometimes it's easier to see what's behind. So I would say for me, it's easier to teach chemistry than to teach English.
Okay. Have you ever had a student? Because I imagine I'm trying to see if there is some light at the end of the tunnel for me, and maybe one day, because I think it's so cool. I see those mathematicians, physicists. They say, "Oh, because the universe has a pattern and it's like this and this," and there is that Japanese guy, Miyako, the one with the gray hair. I forgot.
Mm.
He has a famous video on YouTube that is like God's a mathematician. And
Pretty
yeah, I
much.
think it's really really cool when you can recognize those patterns and you can fit them in a formula and explain stuff. But for me, it is hard. So, for example, when I have a student that is struggling with English, I kind of, my brain goes automatic. Oh, we could try this approach. We could go this way. We can show. We can see that is okay. Maybe he's afraid to communicate. It makes a lot of sense for me, but I have no clue, Thais. How can you make somebody with a lot of difficulty to understand the chemistry? Let's say you are teaching. Uh, Maybe I'm saying some bullshit. You can correct me, but let's say it's basic chemistry one, like the very very first class, and the person is, I don't know, a very newbie. It's like me in the class. What strategies do you do to kind of break this shield and make the person start understanding?
I just show them what makes sense. For example, what they used to have the most doubt about was when they were studying gases and the formula. So what happens when you heat it up? What happens with the volume and the pressure? Or uh, when you diminish the volume, what happens with the temperature and the pressure? You had the formula PV equals nRT, yeah? So you can decorate the formula, of course, or you can see the logic behind it, which is way easier. So if you are diminishing not diminishing, let's say if you are putting more air inside of a balloon,
Okay.
what do you think it's happening with the surface of the balloon? Do you think uh, it's being more pressured or it's being less pressured? Do you think it's gonna blow or not? So
Yeah.
you just explain the basic, the foundation. You make them see the pattern. What's gonna happen, and through that, it's easier. Through
Yeah.
that, they some can start to think like me, but some understand the equation and can apply it. Most of them. They just need to understand why they need to use that. Like, why do I need to use this? Why is it like this? Where do I
I
put
guess.
this number? Where do I put this number? I'm lost. So you just like explain uh why the volume needs to be there, why the pressure needs to be there, why the temperature needs to be there, and then they will get everything.
I guess I would be one of those practical students. I remember when I was a kid, I had this chemistry teacher, and I guess was I may be confused, but I guess was Dona Sandra. I was the fourth grade, and she made brigadeiro in the class to teach us about the heating something, it changes. It was a delicious class, and it was very fun. It was fun. So maybe this would be an approach that would work for me instead of trying to memorize a formula, and do like this process that sometimes is exhausting. First, understand the practice, and then that's why, and whatever formula there is like this. Yeah, I guess
Yes.
it could. Okay. Um, all right. Let me ask you something that we can discuss later. But I have a question here, and I would like to see your point of view. I have this theory, the impression that everything that exists is eternal. It comes from Parmenides and then other theories that I saw, blah 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 blah. Can you explain us, Thais, the cycle of water, for example, the water that we have in the planet?
That one is easy.
What? Yeah, but does it come from somewhere, or are we drinking the same water? It sounds stupid, but it's a genuine question. Are we drinking the same water that the dinosaurs have drunk?
uh Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Depends. Because of the rotation of the planet, yes.
Okay.
Uh, because of our atmosphere, when the comet hit the planet and killed the dinosaurs, we didn't lose the water because the atmosphere still retained uh, the gases that we had. The planet just like re re changed its landscape, and it passed through different cycles, like the ice era and things like that. But in my point of view, I think it was still the same materials, like that say the Lavoisier sentence that he says matter is not created, it's not destroyed, it always changes. So we still have the same atoms, the same matter that was there like in that era of the dinosaurs. It keeps renovating itself. So I think it's still the same water. It just
Okay.
goes through the cycle.
It's something that is very simple, but I've never stopped to think about it. Until one day, I was with a friend, and we were not high or anything like that. We were having a normal conversation, and then he said, "Oh,
Very
have you ever
normal.
thought? No, have you ever thought that the water is kind of infinite?" I say, "Infinite? What are you talking about? Not infinite, but it's like it renovates itself. It's like a cycle." And then I say, "What?" And then after that conversation, shout out to you, Glaucon, if you're watching this, I started to have this thought, some patterns that we see in the universe, they seem to repeat themselves in other. What if everything works like that? What if we had this conversation a billion times already? And then, okay, I already opened the vault too much here. But it's
Yes.
very interesting to think about it because science, chemistry, physics, a lot of areas they kind of they can they don't have to be antagonic. You have some old philosophers saying something like that, and then you have a physicist or a chemist studying something and say, "Whoa, it makes sense." It's like that thing that that guy said 1,000 something years ago or more.
Yeah, physicists, they have the string theory. It's not
Hmm.
proven yet, but it's similar to parallel worlds or parallel realities. So we could be having this conversation at the same moment, at the same time. Maybe different topics, maybe different clothes, maybe
Yeah,
different personalities, but parallel realities. There's uh, s- several different theories about this kind of topics.
Do you
And
do you like to study these crazy things when you are not working or studying the things that you used to work?
of course, I have Carl Sagan books. I have Stephen. What's his last
Stephen
name?
Hawking's?
Stephen Hawking's books. So I really enjoy, and it's good because the the universe is infinite and it is still expanding. So you start from a point of view that is that doesn't have any sense. Something infinite that is expanding. Can you explain that?
Oh, I can try, but okay. People already think I'm a bit crazy, but you like if you like the work of Stephen Hawking's, he's the one with the string theory, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know Roger Penrose? It's a
The name
physicist
rings a
mathematician.
bell. Yeah,
They
but
work together for some things, but then they kind of went into different directions because Penrose he has this theory that is about the cyclic universe, like the universe goes through cycles. So, and he's this kind of British guy said, "What happened before the Big Bang? That was no before Big Bang." But then he starts to explain and you can do this mathematical trick and then voila, and he explains with a an equation, but I don't want to, how can I say, misquote him, but it would be something like this, that before the Big Bang there was no time precisely, there was stuff going on, but the time didn't pass like the sequence of events. It was maybe something similar with the quantum fields, things like that. And
yeah,
then this rang a bell. That's why I asked you the water thing, because I started to think, okay, there is no thing, there's no such thing like voila, and then something starts to exist. But at the same time, there's no voila and something ceases to exist.
exactly.
Maybe they it's like the universe is only reconfiguring itself, in different things, in different shapes. And then I ended up reading and knowing this German scientist. It's Anna Ouija, something like this. Anna something, but you can look for the bouncing universe.
The bouncing
That
universe.
it would be something like this thing that you said about expanding. Imagine it's not exactly this that she explains, but imagine the universe does like this. It contracts to a certain point and it bounces back, and then Big Bang, and then it bounces. So it's like doing this. I don't
Like
know,
a
but
like a string.
something like that. Yeah, like a string or like imagine a balloon that it kind of you can uh, inflate it to a certain limit, but it will not pop. It will just go there and then it retract itself. It was really crazy, but when I looked, I remember this. Parmenides, philosopher, that said that everything is one thing connected, and then the crazy thoughts emerged, and I started to think about it. So I guess if this one is correct, maybe we have had this conversation for a billion times. I just don't know if
Infinite
everything
times,
was.
actually, if this is
Yeah,
correct.
and you know what's the weirdest part? You can imagine that every cycle of bouncing would be different for some reason. You could go there. Or you could think that everything is exactly the same, because why would it be different? Why would any piece of this puzzle go to a different path? Is everything follow the same pattern? I don't know the answer. I'm just throwing stuff here. And if you are watching us and you think this is too crazy, you can share. Oh, shut up. Talk about something normal.
But if you are taking from a quantum perspective, then you have the Schrödinger theory
Mhm.
that you don't
Yeah.
know. So it could be different or it could not. We don't know. There's no reason to be the same, and there's no reason to not be the same.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we really don't know.
What
But
you can think about it, Thais. Imagine if this is correct, maybe this is the reason some people have deja vu feelings. Some people would claim that they have like a, I don't know, like a premonition thing, stuff like that, or
the
that's why we
Mandela
have,
the Mandela effect too.
is this is so cool. So being a you are a scientist in a way. Uh, are you a superstition person, Thais, or are you very skeptic about everything?
Very skeptic.
Okay.
Very, very skeptic. Like I said, like with most of the things, even stuff that is common, like patriotism, I am skeptic about this. Makes no sense to me. So I
So
am very skeptic with everything.
when you started studying chemistry, the way you see the world and everything, has it changed, or no, you just confirmed some things that you already had the impression?
Just confirmed. That's why I think I loved it so much, and it captured like my attention, which is something really difficult, and it captured my attention since the first class I watched it in ninth grade.
This is amazing. I felt the same thing when I started studying behavioral biology. Like, that's why I am like this. Ah, you know.
Yeah.
And what about when you started going back to the career transition? When you started studying English, has anything changed to you? Or when you started teaching English? Maybe it's a better question.
Well, it changed, but I saw that as a challenge because English is also something that always made much more sense to me than Portuguese, for example. So I started learning English by myself very, very young with by consuming content in English. My mom always watched things with subtitles, so I always watched it with her together, and I pick up things very fast.
Mm.
So I I picked up words and jokes and some expressions, and with music and with games that I used to play. So I already had a lot of contact with English when I actually went to study English.
Mm.
So I was actually really, really bored when I started to study because I was like, it was like already know this part, so I okay, I'm finished. and I needed to wait the others. So I skipped classes more than I went to the classes. Don't do that. Don't do that, guys. Go to the classes. Uh, but when I got to the more advanced levels and started to have conversations, it got really interested for me because I like conversations. I like debates, especially when it's a good exchange of information.
Mm-hmm.
S- And that that part is very interesting for me in English. So I think that part made it easier for me in the career change, even though I knew the rest would be very challenging.
It gives you other paths that you can go. You mentioned content in English. Okay, for students that sometimes they have a hard time studying Thais, what could be the fun things that they could do that helped you that you could give as an I don't know, as a hint, well, you could play this game this way, you could read this book. What would you recommend students to do to
To
have
be,
fun while they learn?
yeah, to be immersed in the language, like you pick your hobby, whichever it is, and do
Hmm.
it in English. Like your hobby is watch movies in English. Your hobby is listening to music. Try to listen to music, uh, English musics. Uh, your hobby is playing games. Try to set up your games to put the dialogues in English with or put the let it be in Portuguese, but put the dialogue with the subtitles in English, so you can start associating. The important thing is that you are always, not always, but you pass most of your time immersed in the language, and you try to be most of the time associating the language. And if you try to associate it without the Portuguese, it's even better. Even though you don't understand, you can pick up from the context of what you're watching or what you're seeing, what you're playing, what you're doing. So it's better if you try to do this, to pick up your hobbies and immerse yourself in them in English without the without the Portuguese as your helper.
It
I
makes a
think
lot of
that would
sense. And one thing that happens there is that the English becomes a tool. So you start having fun, you forget you are studying. You are actually solving a problem, playing a game, or I remember when I read when I read Game of Thrones in English, I learned so many words, so
yeah.
many words. What the hell is this? What the hell is that? Something that today I watch a lot of this type of stuff. But for example, the word shunt I've never seen before, or banner. What's a banner? Oh, and then you start to see many different moments in the book. Oh, it's like a flag, maybe something like that, and it was interesting. Um, you mentioned that you were like self-taught in a way. And you really enjoy studying. That's the impression that I have. You mentioned this at the beginning of the conversation,
Yeah.
but I remember you told me when we started talking a few months ago about the moment you have this to relax, read a book, and you play with your dog. And are you reading anything at the moment, Thais?
I am. I am reading a book called Trust by Hernan Diaz. It won the Pulitzer Prize in 2023. So so far I am not too far ahead. I haven't had too much time, and I also just had finished the one that I was reading before. And so I'm in the beginning, but the synopsis of the book is that it's a story of a mid-century couple that they are very reclusive from their upbringing, the way they were brought up. They were very reclusive and they get married, but it's those types of marriage, like the guy is rich, the woman is it's not that poor, but it's not that rich as the guy, and there's a lot of betrayal, greed, mistrust. But the thing that caught my attention and why I think he won the Pulitzer is that the book is written uh, in a way that it has four narrators. So it's the same story told by four different people. So you have
Ah,
four different point of views of the same story.
okay, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, that's what it made me interested in this book. I
So it won't give you a spoiler because one person said something, the other person can describe the same event in the book, but with a different twist because it was a different perspective.
exactly.
Ah,
Mm.
interesting. Oh, Herbert says here, I like this teacher. Thank you, Herbert. Oh, he's talking about you. Will said here, teacher, is your favorite series Breaking Bad? And laughed. What series or documentaries do you recommend to start with that that are cool and also they teach or mention chemistry in the plot?
Series of documentary. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a series, it's a movie, Marie Curie.
Mm.
Go and watch it. It's on Netflix. She Her story is just magnificent. She uh was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize. She has two Nobel Prizes in her name. Uh I think she's the only woman also to have more than one. I can be mistaken, but I think she is.
Is
She
the
has
Meryl
one.
Streep of the Nobel Prizes.
Yeah, she has one in physics and one in chemistry. She was born in Poland. Uh, in those times, women couldn't study, so she moved to France, France Revolution and all. So she studied in the Sorbonne University in France, and got her doctorate. So she started doing researches with Becquerel, who was the one who discovered radioactivity. So she actually got her her first Nobel Prize with Becquerel in physics for the radioactive research, and then she got her other Nobel in chemistry for first isolating two other isotopes, uh, polonium, who is called polonium in honor of her uh, birth city, birth
Mhm.
country, actually, Poland, and the other one was radium. But in those times, they didn't know what radioactive could do with the human body. So Becquerel, Marie Curie, Pierre Curie, her husband, they all died very tragically with cancer and other com- com- complexities of the disease. But it's really interesting. It's a really interesting story, and
And
I recommend.
this is tragic, because the work of the person that could save millions of lives, it's like a real legacy, and the person died because of the work that benefits so many people after that. One from Ling here. Hello guys, shout out to you, teacher. Shout out to Ling. No. My experience there was amazing. I hate it, but okay. uh, and okay, yeah. So you don't read only scientific and technical books. You like mysteries and romances too, different genres, right?
Yeah. My favorites are uh technical books,
Mm-hmm.
the ones with theories, with uh something that you can learn things from. I picked someone's from learning methods, but my from non from fiction, my ultimate genre is horror. I don't know why. I always was fascinated by the genre. So
Mm.
movies, series, books, I really love to consume horror.
Oh, nice.
So half of my shelf is Stephen King books.
Okay.
The king
Oh
of
my
the
God. He
horror.
he writes
Yeah.
he writes a lot, this guy. A book per year, maybe I don't know more.
Yeah. I remember a conversation he was having with the author of Game of Thrones,
Yeah, the
and
procrastinator.
yeah, and the guy was like, "How can you write so many books?" And he was like, "I just write." For him, it's just that easy, and the books are so good. And
uh,
if you put aside the horror part, you actually take very good points, life points from it.
which
And
one is your favorite from him?
my favorite one,
Yeah,
Joyland.
I haven't read this one.
It's my favorite one because it has the horror part, but it's different from the ones he usually writes because it's a very sweet story. It's like a coming of age story, and it has a bit of a romance, and the guy having to deal with not being able to commit to the relationship because it's an older woman, and she has a son that is very ill and uh, could pass away at any moment. Uh, so it's a very, very sweet story, and that is not common for him. So I
Yeah,
think
that
that, yeah, you can go ahead.
no, I remember there is one that is with some kids. Is Stand By Me, if I'm not wrong, or maybe Stand By Me is the name of the movie, but it's like a group of kids and they find like a dead body. And do you know what I'm talking about? Is it Stand By Me, the name? Yeah, I remember watching the movie, and it's a very nice movie. And then I heard, oh, it's Stephen, based on the blah 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 of Stephen King. So what? Stephen King, the one about the clown? I always remember the clown one and the one about the like a vampire in an airplane, is something like this, I
Vampire in an
guess.
airplane.
It's something like, it's not a vampire, but it's like a bat monster. Oh my! It's called like the Night Flight. I just remember the cover
Ah,
of the.
it's
I don't know.
probably one of his short stories then, because he has tons too. And I didn't read, I think, half of them. Uh, yeah, but it's a very sweet story.
And
It's
Thais,
yeah.
I'm asking these questions about books and stuff that you like because I can see a lot of those things in your classes. The classes that you make it. I wanted to wrap our conversation making this link. When you were teaching chemistry, like you said, this was something very exact. You have the logic, you have the formula, and you pass it on. But with English, is something that I love doing, and I notice you do too. We can get these things that we love doing that is doesn't feel like work, and you can transform this in a class, you know.
Yes.
And this is something that I don't know, when I started teaching this type of method that we do, that is more immersive, focusing communication. This was something that really hooked me up. You know, I really, really enjoy doing that. No, did you did you have already a moment like this that you were in a class and you say, oh, talking about this topic that I like, or I'm preparing a class about this. For example, you prepared the song class with the Rise Against. Is it a band that you normally listen on your Spotify playlist and when you're, I don't know,
Yes. I
chilling?
normally listen. Uh, Even though my Spotify playlist is a mess, it has quite a few music, quite a few songs from Rise Against. But yeah, the way my brain works, I get inspiration out of nowhere sometimes. Uh, it just clicks, something clicks, and then I go and work on it. So I don't really know how to explain. It just it it really is like a click. I could almost hear it making a sound, you know. Uh, and I think that comes from reading because when you read, you work both sides of your brain. You work
Mm,
the cognitive and the creative parts. So, since I read like from a very young age, and I consume books in a massive amount. I have this facility of making connections and having and passing an information that I got from the cognitive and passing to the imaginative very easily. So I think that's why I can make the extra classes, the song classes with certain degree of facility of easiness of facility, you know.
mm, nice. Um, Unfortunately, I'm checking here. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to know, Ling, that you think that we have so many attractive teachers and competent people there. Shout out to you, man. And Thais, oh, okay, one of the things that you mentioned is that when you change it, you had to move from one comfort zone, to move out of your comfort zone. Uh, and career transition is not easy. A lot of people are afraid because it's uncharted territory. What could you recommend to people that are maybe just working, they're not happy there, and they're thinking of doing something else, or maybe they're being forced to do something else, to just do the leap and change? And what could you tell them to help them in this journey?
To not be afraid. I actually made a special class about that.
Nice.
Our special class called I Am a Failure. To not be afraid of failing. Like, if you want to try it out, if you really, really want, just go and try it out. Because what I can perceive is that most of the time, people stop themselves out of fear. Uh, they don't stop themselves because of the arguments they create to 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 like make themselves feel better, to justify that choice for themselves. It's more to justify for themselves than to justify to other people. So uh don't be afraid. When you fail, you actually gain more experience than you when you get it right on the first try. So it's good to fail sometimes. It's frustrating. You will feel bad, you will feel sad, of course, but you gain experience, and this experience is very precious. So sometimes uh, failing, having some failures in your life is better than having a life with no failure at all, because you didn't have any experience. And when you need to pass through some situation where that you need a certain experience, you won't have. Like I told you that my first and my second job, I was called by my teacher to work. So I never had a interview experience. So my first time at an interview, I failed. I never had the experience. So I felt frustrated. I felt like I it wasn't justified, because I had my everything right in my curriculum. I had everything that I needed to have to get the job, but still they rejected me. So, but then I gained experience in interviews, in how to conduct myself in interviews. And that was an experience that was really needed. So that failure actually helped me uh, for the future. I hope that I won't need to pass through any other interviews,
Me too.
but but it helped me. And so some failures we need to pass to. We need them.
Okay. I won't say anything else because this is the perfect message that we can use to wrap this up, you know. I just have one more thing to say. Thank you so much, Thais, you know. I
Thank you
had to
too.
control myself so much because it would be very easy for us to go to the crazy talk. Maybe we can do it in another time. Only crazy talk conversation, but I didn't want to clickbait you. So thank you guys for being here and watching us. You know, okay, you guys are chatting amongst yourselves in the comments. So, don't forget this episode is going to be on Spotify tomorrow. Subscribe to the channel, you know, show it to a friend, and see you next week on our next episode of Talking Times. Drink the water that a T-Rex have drunk.
Bye bye, guys.
Yep.